It's great to have you here on the Clark Howard Show, especially today. You know, our mission is to serve you with advice and information that empowers you so you make better financial decisions in your life. And I'm happy to report that not only is it Friday, but I still stink. That deodorant I'm wearing.
I don't smell it.
Just doesn't work, huh? I got to learn my shortcomings from you straight ahead in today's episode. And later, there's a lot of equity sitting there tempting people who own houses. What's the right and wrong of that equity? We're going to talk about that. But now it's time to talk about where you were let down by me.
I should have never encouraged you to speak.
You must think I'm pretty stupid.
You should be ashamed of yourself.
Well, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong.
Maybe you're right, pal.
Okay. Joe in Florida says, in February, I purchased a fairly high-end used PC desktop from eBay from a large reseller as a refurb. It has worked perfectly until a few days ago when it refused to boot. Fortunately, I had purchased a SquareTrade extended warranty. I contacted them on Wednesday morning, opened a claim over the phone, and immediately received the approval to take the PC for repair to a local shop. It turns out there was a fault in the system's BIOS that caused the original issue. While there, it was also determined that the SSD drive was failing. SquareTrade immediately approved reimbursement for the original repair plus a replacement SSD drive, reinstallation of Windows 11 Pro plus recovery of all data from the original faulty drive in the amount of $695.50. I received written notification of payment issued within 12 hours of submitting the final bill from the local store. While I totally agree with you that extended warranties are generally a waste of money on new electronics, I totally disagree when purchasing a used item from a source such as eBay, regardless of the seller's rating. I tend to look to the used market for such items and have had 3 occasions now over the years where a warranty has saved me considerable money.
And who posted that?
That was from Joe in Florida.
See, I was expecting that was my brother Neil.
Oh.
Because this is something my brother has argued with me about for years, who believes so much, just as you do, that on used electronics that you absolutely buy a warranty from a reputable seller. SquareTrade's an example.
Neil may be biased. He sells insurance.
He sells insurance for a living. But I'm so glad that this saved you in this case. Historically, the math shows that the amount you'd pay for an extended warranty or service contract on every item you buy, you add it up, it's going to be more than the cost of repairs. But you're buying in a higher risk area of the market, buying used electronics. And if this is working for you, who am I to disagree?
Irene in Florida says, Clark, this is just a mild odor, as you don't really stink. But I think the response to Hunter in Florida failed to mention that the life insurance policy most likely would require annual premiums well after the 5 years. Most require payments until age 65. I learned this the hard way. Even though I told the insurance agent I wanted payments to stop at age 55, I continued to get premium notices. When I called my agent, he said I didn't have to pay them. But when I called the insurance carrier, I learned that future premium payments would be paid through a loan against the cash surrender value, CSV, of the policy. If the amount of these loans plus the not significant rate of interest, not insignificant rate of interest, I think it was 6% at the time, exceeded the CSV, the policy would become null and void, and I would be out all the money I'd paid over the years. I ran the numbers and realized I could have self-insured for the same amount of the whole life policy premiums I had already paid. I just wanted to pass along the lesson I learned the hard way.
I am really sorry, Irene. I don't know what pitch you received on this policy that you had gotten originally, but whole life insurance, any form of insurance other than term, is crazy complicated. And there are rare situations where it makes sense to have a life insurance policy beyond a simple level term, but they are a lot more rare than the number of policies that are actually sold that people buy, because all the incentives in the insurance marketplace are for insurance salespeople to sell you these complicated insurance policies that have endless rules and requirements. That's why in almost all cases you start and your search usually ends at level term insurance.
JP in Connecticut says, I've been a longtime listener and reader of your programs and love them. However, I don't feel comfortable every time you point a finger at Zelle and single it out as unsafe to use. I, along with many of my friends, have used Zelle and other digital money apps for many years and haven't had a single issue. If you use those apps carefully and correctly, you shouldn't encounter any issues, just like we have so far. In addition, there's no big difference between the apps. They all have many millions of users, and I haven't heard any negative info about them in the media except from you, which made me think you were making something up to boost yourself or something else.
Wow. Okay, that's fun. All right. So why do I call Zelle Big Bad Zelle? Because Zelle is unique in that it's embedded in your bank account. A lot of times people don't even know that they have Zelle or know what Zelle is, and money will vacate from their checking account as a criminal's hacked in through the Zelle app and stolen their money. The problem with Zelle is the lack of proper security. Now, you've never been harmed by it, but when I talk about Cash App and Venmo, all these apps have an overriding lack of consumer protections. And that's why I want you to build safety rails around using them. The problem with you using Zelle embedded in your bank account is that you need that bank account to pay your bills, rent, or mortgage payment, car payment, whatever bills, utility payments, whatever. If a criminal gets in through Zelle and steals money from your account, you then don't have money to pay your bills. That's why it's safer, if you do want to use Zelle, to set up an account, just as I would have you do with Venmo or Cash App, at another financial institution than what you normally use. Only have the amount of money in there that you need to fund using the payment apps. It's the real danger is having the payment apps tied into your principal source of money that you need to pay your bills.
I have to use Zelle for one vendor I use at my home, and they refuse to take anything but Zelle, so I do have it on that separate account that I have. Okay, Zach in Kansas says, Clark, you're my hero, and I've been listening to you since I was a kid. You definitely don't stink, but you undersell HSAs by calling them triple tax advantaged.
Undersell them or oversell them?
Under. When HSA contributions are made to an employer-sponsored plan via payroll deduction, you don't pay any FICA tax on the contribution amount, which actually makes HSAs quadruple tax advantaged. Another HSA tip I've heard you mention, but not truly hammer home, is that if your employer's HSA plan is administered by some crummy custodian, as many are, you can open a second independent HSA at Fidelity. Keep both plans running in parallel. Most, if not all, of the crummy companies will let you continue to make payroll contributions, getting that quadruple tax advantage, while also making periodic partial custodian-to-custodian transfers to your Fidelity HSA, where you can enjoy higher interest rates, better investment choices, and more favorable account policies. What a deal!
Zach, thank you for making HSAs even more appealing. And the second part of your post is something that I have never done a good job really delving into. Because first of all, you have a sliver of the population that has HSAs, and then just dealing with everyday life, I don't want to create too much noise. But you are 100% right. You want to run a shadow HSA account like you're doing. Fidelity is the easiest and best I know at this, at least as far as I've been able to see. Most employers end up with really terrible HSA accounts for their employees, just atrocious, high expense, rotten plans. And so you want to use it as a vessel like you're using, Zach, to receive the funds into the HSA and then do as you do like clockwork on a regular schedule, can be once a year, whatever. You want to move the money from the crummy plan the employer offered to your own good plan that you can invest or have the money there ultra low cost with Fidelity. It's more work. The payoff down the road financially in your life, tremendous.
Brandon in Texas says, when Clark discusses the high cost of health care, he never mentions that hospitals and doctors pay U.S. prices. We don't pay Mexican or Turkish real estate, supplies, or trade employees. Have you looked at the Medgas, I don't know what that is, at a clinic in Mexico? I'm in Texas, and I have. Does it work? Kind of, but I wouldn't want to work in the clinic due to what I perceive as leaks in the Medgas setup. They can lead to health consequences for employees.
I'm not familiar with that.
Me either.
You took us into a new area. If you don't mind posting again and explain what this is, or I guess we could look
it up, yeah.
We'll look it up. It is true that the cost, part of the cost of medical care in the United States is that costs in the United States on a lot of things are higher. But if you compare us to countries where it's actually more expensive to live, a lot of countries in Europe, as an example, their healthcare costs are a tiny fraction of ours. We have some structural problems in the United States, especially centered around hospitals, that have led to much, much higher overall medical costs in the U.S. than elsewhere in the world. And we're spending far, far, far too much of our nation's wealth on medical care for very poor results overall. So no doubt that is a problem.
Lucy in Wisconsin says, Clark stinks worse than our buck goat in mating season.
I don't know what that means.
I don't know. It sounds bad,
There's
though.
a lot of stuff I don't know today, right?
We learn something new, and Clark stinks every week.
Goat.
My husband and I have more guaranteed income than expenses, so only need our $1.4 million in retirement savings for special projects, trips, and like-to-haves. Clark and West both do not recommend using target retirement funds for retirement accounts due to being conservative as you get closer past retirement. I'm 72 and put a large portion of my IRA split between 2040 and 2050 target funds. There's no reason for me to use my actual retirement year since I don't need the IRA money for daily living. I enjoy listening and learning to save more, spend less, and never get ripped off.
Well, thank you for that. And I can't speak for Wes. I actually have no problem with people continuing to use target retirement funds past retirement age. They're set up mathematically to do that. If you're let's say you're in a 2020 target retirement fund, you've retired, the allocations will be properly conservative for you here in 2025. You're doing the opposite because it's money you don't need, making the portfolio more risky in a traditional sense. I've got no problem with that either.
Yeah, West has said that he thinks they get too conservative closer to the retirement year, but he doesn't totally say not to use them. Lynn in Delaware says, while you don't have a stink of commission, you do have a mild odor of omission. You mentioned that many people own individual bonds rather than bond funds because individual bonds have a maturity date. Well, that's true. You neglected to mention that one can have the best of both worlds, i.e. having the diversification of a fund while retaining a specific maturity date by investing in defined maturity, also called target maturity ETFs. Note, I am citing one that she cited as an example, not a recommendation. You should do your own due diligence. Thank you for all of your years of serving others. I came upon your podcast a few months ago and have already listened to just over a third of your episodes. I'm looking forward to hearing the rest.
Well, that's so kind of you, and thank you. And okay, so using target ETFs instead of individual bonds, no problem with that. And for a lot of people, that is an easier way to buy the bond market instead of having to deal with buying individual issue bonds. Good suggestion.
Rick in Arizona says, no stink joke, but I think you missed a great chance with the parents of the student in St. Louis that will be moving to a nearby state in 4 months. The student has $5K saved, and the parents offered to chip in for an upgrade. This is on a car. Instead of spending it all, why not grab a 2 to 3K Toyota, Nissan, or Subaru off marketplace, get it checked, and keep some cash in reserve? If it's reliable, drive it to the next stop. If not, sell and repeat. And encourage the kid to grow up. Get liability insurance in their own name so mom and dad's premiums stay safe. As for trips to California, fly and rent a car if they need one. Book early and reshop the fare until the departure date. You know the drill. 3 days each way on the road, plus fuel, plus hotels and lousy food isn't worth it for a short visit. We just buy shiny old Fords with 100K miles, run them past 200K, and move on. Works every time.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, so the expectations of a new driver or a young driver are so different than they used to be. I mean, there used to be a term called beater cars. Don't know what that came from. And people would buy cars really cheaply. And I remember going out with my one of my college roommates, and he bought a car for $500. In today's dollars, that would be like maybe $1,800. And the car ended up working for him for years until it died, and then it was just, he had a junkyard come and get it for what he could get for it. But it's something we don't think of today as often as we used to.
Okay, Leigh in Connecticut says Clark stinks when he's too hard on himself. Every time he talks about doing yoga, he compares himself to others who are the best in the class. The important thing is he is doing yoga for his body and mind, and if he leaves the class with his mind and body feeling better, then he absolutely is among the best in class. You rock, Clark. Namaste.
Okay, so this is a character flaw I have, Leigh. Complete character flaw. Yoga is a practice. You are not supposed to look around the room and see, man, I'm terrible at this compared to other people. But I am so driven. It's just what my personality is, that I don't know how to just be kind to myself that way. So you've heard me over almost 30 years. You've heard me repeatedly be too hard on myself about things. It's just something you'd think that I would get enough maturity that I wouldn't be so hard on myself.
Well, maybe this is it's a practice in doing the poses, and it's a practice in being gentler on yourself.
So I should
and include that in your yoga practice.
Namaste to you,
I think
too,
Leigh would appreciate that. Leigh. Sorry. Leigh.
Leigh, I think Leigh. Leigh, I will...
Namaste,
I
Leigh.
will try to take that to heart, and I will do my proper breathing as I'm supposed to every day. Thank you. Coming up ahead, we have such a distorted housing market in the United States that we've got all these people who'd like to buy a house. We have all these people who have houses worth way more than what they paid for them. But there's something that the people who own houses are doing more and more of. You got to be really careful doing. I'm going to tell you about it. How much have home prices inflated in the United States? Well, if Zillow's right, we have an incredible amount of value in homes in the United States, $55 trillion. Equity, little less than half that. And this is bonkers, what people have paid versus what homes are worth. And on top of it, try to imagine this, roughly a third of homes people own free and clear. So if you are someone who is fortunate enough, you're in a position to buy a home, own it, see the values of it rise over the years, you're the opposite side of the people who are trying to buy their first home and can't because of the lack of affordability in the housing market. You are in the sweet spot. So what's happening now, marketing everywhere you turn, the banks want to get part of that back from you. They're pushing home equity lines of credit, home equity loans. They're trying to get you lured into using that equity in your home like it's a piggy bank. Let me tell you, the only thing you should be using that equity in your home for is to improve that home, to do repairs needed, to put that new roof on if needed. But you don't want to let lifestyle creep erode what you've been fortunate enough to develop, which is this equity that is an enormous potential source of financial security and long-term wealth. When you use equity that you have built up in your home as a spending source, you're then mortgaging your future when you do that. Because instead of, like clockwork, building up equity with the payments on your mortgage, if you have one, you're doing the reverse now. You're taking that equity you have and you're eating it up, hurting your future financial independence and future wealth. The banks so badly want more interest income, and they are thrilled to lend you against that equity. And it's tempting because, you know, your neighbor got that new car and you think, I'd like to have one of those too. Hey, I got all this equity. I'll just use it to buy the car. Or, you know, I've always really wanted to have a fill in the blank, whatever that fill in the blank is. And it's so simple, so easy. The paperwork to secure that, particularly a HELOC, is so teensy tiny. And now the big lure are financial institutions offering you a HELOC at no closing costs. They just want you to start writing those checks, pulling that money against it, and creating that revenue stream for the financial institution. And so remember, there's nothing wrong if your particularly credit unions offer these no-fee home equity lines of credit. Nothing wrong with you having it for an emergency repair or something like that on your home. Having it in place. But it's when how you use it is what can be helpful or hurtful. It's your choice. But I can tell you, long term, it's much better that you never use that home equity line of credit for lifestyle. Period.
Okay, we've got some questions. Jeff in Texas sent this one in. I recently had put a down payment on a new home with a builder per their requirements to begin the contract, in essence, the earnest money. After a few days of negotiating the price, a contract was finally sent to me a week from the down payment.
Wait. So you paid the down payment before you had a contract?
Yeah. So it's in essence earnest money. In the contract, there was a clause that there would be no refunds if the contract was canceled by the buyer. I signed thinking as a new home there would be no issues with the inspection. Well, this new home had more issues found than my previous two older homes combined. After some careful consideration, I canceled the contract because I'd felt the quality and craftsmanship of the home was below my standards, plus what was done behind the walls I was not comfortable with. No refund was given from the earnest money, and this is a national home builder. Does Clark have any suggestions to request a refund based on the inspection results? Any help would be appreciated.
Yeah, okay. First of all, let's deal with the bigger picture. You did something I want people to do that almost no buyer of a new home ever does, which is to have an inspection done. If you do the the process a lot of experts would recommend, if you're buying a new home, you have 3 inspections done at different phases. And yeah, you're spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars to do that versus buying a house that costs hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so you dodged a real potential problem buying a house that, based on your inspector's findings, was a substandard house that would cause you nothing but problems. So no matter what, it was the right decision, even if ultimately you lost your deposit, you did the right thing. Now, the question is, legally, was that process handled right? And do you now have rights to money back because the builder got you to pay that money before there was a deal? You have to go to a specialized kind of attorney, almost certainly, and this is state by state how this is going to work. So in Texas, you need to find potentially a construction attorney. A traditional real estate closing firm might not be able to help you on this, but someone who specializes in construction law would be able to be helpful. Now, they usually are dealing with big players, developers, contractors, investment houses, insurance companies that invest in real estate, that kind of thing. So it's going to be little old you hiring a construction attorney, but the money is worth enough that you want to consult one and see if, based on the circumstances, if it's a reasonable thing for you to receive back some, most, or all of that deposit money that you paid.
And I would start with, if you have a closing attorney you like, I would ask them for a recommendation. They may know someone who would deal with this kind of thing specifically in that construction attorney area. Judith in Virginia says, I purchased an item online, shipping free, and I did receive my item. It was a $130 purchase. A few days later, I received a bill from FedEx for $55. I believe this was a tariff bill and cost. I was caught off guard. Here's my question. Should online retailers make consumers aware of potential tariff bills? Had I known the item would be an additional $55, I never would have purchased it. I would have reviewed their site a few times. No mention of the tariff bill from the carrier that they used to deliver the item. I have reviewed their site a few times. Do consumers have to assume we will be hit for extra expenses when ordering things online? P.S. The company was Quince.
All right, so this has been a news story. So let me first talk about the Quince situation. Then I'll talk about the question you asked up front, which was a broader waterfront about the shock bills that are showing up. So in Quince's case, it was a mess up, apparently by FedEx.
Yeah.
Is that what the news report
Happened
said?
about 9,000 Quince
9,000 people
customers.
they made mad. And so the tariffs were not supposed to be assessed by FedEx. Somehow that was all messed up. Everybody's apologized, and hopefully you never paid that bill to FedEx. Now, on the wider issue, we keep hearing these ad hoc things. I just did something in TV about it. People ordering things online, and you're buying at a price, and then you get this UFO bill from a shipper, I guess called carrier, UPS, FedEx, whatever, or just a crazy bill shows up in the mail for the tariffs. So we're in this very, very messy stage with the implementation of tariffs. And when you're buying online, if you can see source of origin, if the item is clearly being manufactured overseas, know that right now in the chaos of implementation of tariffs, you could get hit with some kind of crazy bill. Some are being absorbed by retailers, others not. And that's why this is a problem that is a temporary one, but is a problem right now.
Brock in Florida says, I'm a relatively new listener. I've learned so much from you over the past couple of years. I look forward to each podcast and listen while I'm at the gym in the afternoons. I'm in my upper 30s, and I started late in life when it comes to savings and retirement, but I feel I'm doing good work so far. Last year, I opened a Roth IRA and a brokerage account with Fidelity. I'm actively contributing $100 a month to both accounts. I wanted to get a jump start on some new retirement savings and a separate rainy day fund as well. Here's my dilemma. 4 years ago, I started a crypto account with $1,000. It's now grown to about $3,700, and I'm excited about that gain. The thing is, I don't contribute to it anymore, and after hearing your take on cryptocurrency, I'm a little hesitant to keep it long term. Will I be better off just selling the crypto and moving the cash into my Fidelity brokerage account to boost and accelerate my rainy day fund? My gut tells me this is the right move for more sustainable long-term growth, but I'd like to hear what you would do if you were in my shoes. Thanks for all your amazing advice.
Well, you're very kind with what you just said there. So having money in crypto, I don't have a problem with somebody having a little side money in crypto. Crypto is an immature asset. When it matures, it will not be a speculative thing at all because it will be an adequate, substantial, recognized form of money. Right now, crypto is not there yet. So it is totally in the speculative environment. You have had your money more than triple. You could dial it back and sell off $2,700 of it approximately. Keep your original $1,000 in it if you want to have a little bit of money in crypto, and put the other $2,700 to work in traditional investments like you're doing right now with Fidelity. That is your choice, but I worry about people using crypto as the shortcut, that I'm going to speculate in this, and I'm going to make all this money, because crypto is speculative. Holding money, which is crypto money, or what is it, is something that you do so you have money to use for things. It's a parking space kind of thing. This phenomenon that's happened with crypto is very unusual because most crypto that people put money into, they've lost money on. And then there have been certain times that people have bought certain crypto, like Bitcoin, where they've done very well. So this is not a mature thing. It is not a traditional investment. And that's why it should only be a small part of what you do. So if I were thinking about it, you put money in crypto originally because you believed it was a good idea. Play with the house's money now. Keep your original $1,000, take the other $2,700, move it out, and let's see what happens with the $1,000. It goes to zero, you're going to be okay. It goes up from there, you'll be better off, whatever. That would be my best compromise I could recommend to you, Brock. And I want to thank you and everyone else for being with us on today's podcast. And we're at the weekend again. I hope that if you're a football fan like I am, you enjoy your weekend of football, you enjoy the fall, and that you know that we're here to serve you, not just during the week, all weekend long, 24 hours a day. We are available to serve you at Clark.com and ClarkDeals.com, and our posts that are available on social media, our newsletters. The whole idea is to reach you however you want to be reached, with information that you can trust, that you can act on. And that's my spirit. That's what I want to do with every way we make information available, is to give you more power in your life, more control, and give you tools to make better decisions for your future. I want you to be able to save more, and however you can, spend less. And especially, never let anybody rip you off. And go have that great weekend.